The New York Giants came into the 2021 offseason with an array of holes that needed to be filled. Among those needs was cornerback opposite Pro Bowler James Bradberry, a position that cost the Giants in two huge divisional matchups last season. The offensive line struggled for what seemed like the 15th straight year, allowing the second most sacks in the league. And the Giants receivers consistently struggled to get open while battling a rash of injuries. General Manager Dave Gettleman addressed several needs in a big way via free agency. He took a big step towards maintaining the pass rush, re-signing breakout tackle Leonard Williams to a 3-year, $63 million contract. He addressed receiver, inking Lions star Kenny Golladay to a blockbuster 4-year, $72 million deal, and he bolstered the cornerback position opposite Bradberry with the acquisition of Adoree Jackson on a 3-year contract. The two biggest needs that remain are along the offensive line and at edge rusher. Numerous reports have indicated that the Giants have an interest in addressing the latter in the draft. This makes sense as Big Blue's edge rushers were ravaged by injury last season, and the team has not spent a day one pick on an edge rusher since Jason Pierre-Paul in 2010. When you look at the edge rushers currently on the Giants roster, it's not a surprise that they could be looking for help in the draft. The things that stand out when you look at this group is not a whole lot of production, not a whole lot of experience. In fact, they only have one player who has more than 10 career sacks. This year's draft class of edge rushers features 3 players that stand out above the rest, and all 3 excel in different areas, possessing specific tools that make them menaces in their individual areas of play. And those 3 players are Azeez Ojulari, a lightning-quick pass rush specialist out of Georgia, Kwity Paye, an ultra-strong run-defending defensive end from the University of Michigan, and Jaelan Phillips, a monster hybrid who can do it all with his balance in both phases of the game.
So the first player I'm going to be breaking down is Kwity Paye, a 6 foot 2.5 inch, 261 pound defensive end from the University of Michigan. Strengths when you're talking about Kwity Paye, what he brings to the table is he is an elite run defender. He is a guy who's going to shut down the edge and control one side of the line of scrimmage for the entirety of the game. He's an explosive athlete, extremely compact, extremely powerful. He's a disciplined player, team captain at Michigan, and he's one of the more coachable players you're ever going to find. Don Brown or Jim Harbaugh, when you listen to these guys, any of them talk about Kwity Paye, they rave about the kid. They absolutely love him. He's got an amazing story. He fled to a refugee camp from Sierra Leone in West Africa. He came to America, to Providence, Rhode Island, found his way as a football player. Unbelievable story. Weaknesses when you're talking about Kwity Paye. He's underdeveloped in his pass rush. He's more so just running into tackles. You're going to see a lot of that on his film. He lacks a plan in his rush. He doesn't really know how to attack guys and how to beat them, how to counter their movements or read what they're doing. And he has a limited repertoire of pass rush moves as a result. But he's extremely coachable. He's extremely athletic. He's extremely compact. I feel like he's going to be able to develop a pass rush as a result of all of that. So when you're looking at this first play with Kwity Paye, when you're evaluating an edge player, the thing that coaches or scouts always talk about is heavy hands. Heavy hands. And what does that mean? I'm going to show you heavy hands. This is heavy hands right here on the edge from Kwity Paye. Watch this tackle's head jerk back. You see that? When the tackle's head jerks back like that, that's heavy hands. When you see that, you see the shoulder level raise, and now you're going to see Kwity Paye get extension. And watch this shed. He's going to bounce this tackle's face off the turf and make the TFL. I mean, this is a textbook rep of what you want from an edge player in the run game. He's going to come off the ball, heavy hands, extension, shed into the B-gap, TFL. I mean, that's what you're seeing from Kwity Paye all over his tape. And that's what makes him one of the best edge players in this class. Same thing here. He's lined up as a 6 technique against Michigan State. I think this is a tackle running an unbalanced set. But same thing here. He's going to come off the line of scrimmage, dent, heavy hands, raising the tackle's shoulders, control the line of scrimmage, shed, TFL. I mean, you see this from Kwity Paye almost every play. This is how he controls tackles at the college level. Because he's one of the strongest edge players in the draft, no doubt. Watch him come off the line of scrimmage. Control, shed, TFL. Textbook. This next play this is probably my favorite play on Kwity Paye's tape, this next play. University of Minnesota, going to try to run OZ to Kwity Paye's side. Big mistake. I would not recommend running OZ to Kwity Paye's side. Why? He's going to get dent. This is what we call dent when you come off the line of scrimmage. That's dent right there. That's 3-4 yards of dent. And that's what you want when you're playing defensive line, interior or exterior. He gets this dent because he has heavy hands, great punch extension. And what it does when you have dent is it makes the running back make a drastic or a horizontal cut. And that's ultimately the goal of any D-line in the run game. Because when this running back puts his foot in the ground right there and is going to make the decision to make a drastic cut because he has to. And what does that do? That gives the whole defensive line, the whole team, more time to rally to the ball. So Kwity Paye gets his dent here. He's 3-4 yards into the backfield. Going to make the running back make a drastic cut. He's going to get off the block, and everybody's coming to the ball now. You have the caravan because you made that running back bubble. And that's what you're getting with Kwity Paye. And this next play really illustrates Kwity Paye's coachability as a player on the edge. You're going to see him on the edge right here. They're going to get a veer release. Penn State's running IZ. They're trying to read Kwity Paye on the edge. So what's he going to do? He's going to get into what's called a squeeze technique. He recognizes the veer release and gets into a squeeze technique. The first job of the squeeze technique is to eliminate the space between himself and the tackle. You're going to see Kwity Paye do that pretty quickly. Eliminate the space. Got his hand on the tackle. I love that. Absolutely love that. And the idea of the squeeze technique, what you're trying to do is you're trying to play the dive, which is the running back coming downhill, or the quarterback if he pulls. You want to play two things with one player. So how do you do that? You stay square to the line of scrimmage. You eliminate the space. That way, if the dive comes back, you can tackle. Or if the quarterback pulls, you're in a good body position to plant and get to the outside and make a tackle. So Kwity Paye does this. He's square. He's reading. And what do you read in the squeeze technique? You read the mesh point. Your eyes want to be on the QB's hands when you're in this technique. Why? Because you're looking at the QB's hands. QB doesn't have the ball. QB doesn't have it. Who has it? The running back's got to have it. So then you get flat down the line of scrimmage and you make a tackle for a 1-yard gain. That's exactly what Kwity Paye does. I mean, that rep is an example of coachability because that's not instinct. You know, that's not something that you're just going to roll out onto a football field and do. This is something that you're taught. That's coached right there. And that's Kwity Paye in a nutshell, is a guy who's able to be coached and able to do things on the field and bring that coaching into the game tape. Now when you're talking about the pass rush, this is when there's a little bit of a hole in Kwity Paye's film. You'll see him on the edge here. He's just going to run into this tackle. You see a lot of reps like this on Kwity Paye's tape. And that's, it definitely is a red flag because there's no pass rush move that any edge coach would, teach that is put your hands high on the tackle's shoulders, both hands, and run into him. That's not a pass rush move. If you're going to go to power, you would use one arm. Kwity Paye would, you'd like to see him use this inside arm and stab and go to a long arm because the line that all edge coaches use is you're longer with one arm than you are with two. So that's what you would like to see from Kwity Paye here. But there's no understanding of the tackle's set here. And, that's what worries you a little bit on the film. This tackle's on a decent set, 45-degree set. What I would do here is I would fake inside and try to win around the edge with speed. That's what I would do if I was Kwity Paye. But it doesn't look like he's reading the set. He's just running into him, and he has nothing going on that pass rush right there. Next play, Kwity Paye, you're going to see, he's trying to do something here. He's trying to work an inside move, an inside hezzy, and go around the edge. This is really just Kwity Paye to me just trying to athlete his way through a pass rush. Because, this is what I don't like with Kwity Paye, is at this point, he should be reading what's happening with this tackle. If he tries to come around the edge here, it's going to be very hard to dip this edge and get to the quarterback. He's most likely just going to get read upfield and fall. That's exactly what happens. But if you're reading this tackle like Kwity Paye should be, he makes this inside hezzy, not bad. You get to the edge, and now you have this tackle running. So this would be the point right now, about right here, this would be the point to plant and go to power and knock this tackle 3-4 yards past the quarterback and make a play because this tackle has no base. He's running. So two things could happen here. You could either go right here, you could either plant and make a decision to go to power here and knock this tackle back, or you could go to what's called a Reggie, the move that Reggie White made famous, where he gets this inside arm under the tackle's shoulder and you use his momentum to Reggie him by and make the play on the quarterback. But this is what Kwity Paye doesn't understand in these pass rush reps mostly, is that the whole idea of pass rush is to create movement to counter movement. You want to create movement from tackles and use their momentum against them. And that's what you're not seeing enough of from Kwity Paye on tape. So I'd like to see that more in the pass rush. But there are plays that he does do some good things into the pass rush, like this. I mean, the guy had some sacks, no doubt. This play, Kwity Paye's rushing on the edge. He's going to knock down the outside hand, bend, make a sack. I mean, this is a nice rep from Kwity Paye. And you're going to see some of these. Pass rush, outside hand. He sees the tackle high, trying to get his outside hand on him. Knock it down, bend the edge, sack. So, there are some plays where Kwity Paye is doing this. It's just not happening enough. This play is a big play for me on tape because this illustrates a tool that is the number one tool in pass rush that everybody wants to have, and that's get off and explosiveness. Watch Kwity Paye on the edge right here. First player off the line of scrimmage. I mean, he's 2 yards past anybody else on the D line. That's explosiveness. That's get off. And I like this because this is out of a stand-up. This is what he would be doing with the Giants. So explosiveness, get off, faster than anyone else, and he affects the throw as a result. So that's a tool, that's explosive ability, that's raw athleticism that you're going to be able to use to coach up in the pass rush. I like this rep a lot because Kwity Paye's understanding a set here. He sees a guard, he's rushing as a 4-eye or a 5 on a guard here. And he sees the overset of the tackle, inside move. And the one thing I want to see is Kwity Paye hesitates a little bit here, but watch when she puts this foot in the down. Watch this explosiveness. That's explosiveness right there. I mean, that's Kwity Paye. That's explosive athletic ability to be able to close space and get to a QB in 2 seconds. Recognizes overset, inside move, hesitates, plant though, explosiveness to the quarterback. So that's what you're getting with Kwity Paye. This is the guy that we're talking about here, an elite run defender, a guy who can shut down the edge, who has tools, but is very underdeveloped in his pass rush repertoire. So I think he's going to be able to develop it, but I think he's a guy with an extremely high floor because he's bringing a concrete elite skill, and that's his run defense, which isn't sexy, but it's very important. It's something that you're definitely looking for in a player like Kwity Paye. So I love him for those reasons, and I think that he's a very reliable guy, and I'm confident he'll be able to develop more into a pass rushing mold with all those tools and his coachability. So that's Kwity Paye, University of Michigan. Next prospect I'm going to be talking about is Azeez Ojulari, a 6'2", 249-pound pass rush specialist out of the University of Georgia. Strengths when you talk about Ojulari is what I just said. He's a pass rush specialist. He's a guy you're going to bring in on third down to get after the quarterback. Got great athleticism and bend, great speed, great get off, very precise hands, knows how to manipulate tackles, knows how to get their outside arm off him, and very good length. I think 33.5-inch arms you can see in the picture there. Weaknesses with Ojulari, he's very undersized in the run game. He doesn't always stay in his gap. He gets torqued by times at O-lineman. I don't think he's going to be a 3-down guy right off the bat. I think he's going to need to put on more size before he gets to that point, so a little bit of a developmental project there. He needs to improve his counters. He's got great speed and he wins around the edge, but I think he has a lot of room to make inside moves and recognize sets where he's not at that point yet, but I think he can improve there, and he plays high at times. I think I'd like to see him get his pads down at times. But when you talk about Azeez Ojulari, this first play is going to illustrate his athleticism and his insane bend. His bend is really what I want to illustrate right off the bat here. So watch this rush. Now watch this bend to the quarterback. I mean, that is just freakish. I'm going to play it all the way through just so you guys can see it in real speed. But his bend on the edge, that's crazy bend. I mean, that's unbelievable. To be able to get that low, dip underneath the tackle's pads here, dip underneath, great ankle flexion, great bend, stay on your feet, make the play, sack, fumble. That's special. That's really, really special. See it from the tight view here. Great get off, gets the outside arm, bend. Look at that bend. Oh my God. I mean, that's something that you're not going to see from a lot of edge rushers ever. That kind of athletic ability, that kind of flexibility, it's very rare and special. Same thing here. He's going to get the edge. He's going to get ridden upfield a little bit. Bo Nix, the quarterback from Auburn, is going to step up. Watch how fast Ojulari bends and turns his corner. I mean, that's just insane. I mean, that's unfair. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, there's not much else you can say about it. You're not going to see many tackles that have that kind of ability to bend and turn that quickly and get back to the quarterback. That's just natural athletic ability. And if he has to hold that ball a little longer, he might make that play. Now I want to show you Azeez Ojulari's hands and his feet. Both of them are really great here. He's going to go to his patent move. This is his favorite move, is a stab chop. So he's going to stab here. You're going to see it with his inside hand. He's going to a stab, but he's not stabbing to go to a power move, which is what he wants the tackle to think. He's stabbing simply to get the tackle Alex Leatherwood to shoot his outside hand. And that's exactly what happens. He's stabbing as a means to manipulate the tackle into shooting that outside hand, and then he goes with a cross chop, gets the hands off, and bends to make the play. And I also want to illustrate Azeez's feet here, because his feet are great. This is really what you teach when you're a pass rush coach. First step, 1, 2, third step, he's pointing his toe on this third step. See that? That third step, he's pointing the toe, and as he works his cross chop, he's going to gain tons of room up the field. See that little hop? He's going to gain a ton of ground up the field and get his hips square to the quarterback in order to make the bend. That's textbook. That's great, and that's what you're getting with Azeez Ojulari. Same thing here. He's going to stab, get the tackle to shoot his outside arm, get the tackle's arm off, bend. Same thing with the footwork, too. Third step, bending. See, point the toe right there. Hop, get the edge, get hips square to the quarterback, make the play. Same thing here. A lot of people are going to talk about this Cincinnati game. He had some splash plays down the stretch of this game. The thing I'm going to say is I don't think these tackles are very good, but Ojulari was able to abuse them towards the end of the game, so that does say something for him there. But what I like about Azeez here is same thing. He's going with that stab to get the arm off, but with that stab, he's getting the tackle to shoot his hands. He's getting the tackle to do what he wants. He's dictating what the tackle is going to do, and then he's using that against him. And that's something that you didn't really see with Kwity Paye when I illustrated it earlier. Kwity Paye wasn't really countering those tackles. He wasn't creating movement from tackles to use it against them. And you see that with Ojulari a lot here. Getting that outside arm off, great bend, and watch this leap and this burst at the end to get to the quarterback. I mean, that's special, and that's what you want from an edge rusher. That you didn't really see from Paye, but you do see it from Ojulari in the pass rush. Here, he's going to get great extension, great arm length, as I said before. He recognizes a quick set. This is somewhat of an RPO, and he's just going to shed and get to the quarterback. I mean, Ojulari is a natural pass rusher. It's what he does. Does he have holes in his pass rush? Yes. Like I said, I think he needs to improve his counters. There's a lot of space here. This tackle is setting way too hard to the outside. Ojulari here could easily make an inside move, get vertical, and get to the quarterback, and I don't think he's recognizing it a lot. You know, there's several things that he could do here. He could go to power here. I would like to see him go to power. This tackle's turning, he's getting vertical. Or he could use his great quickness and his great dexterity to make an outside head fake and make the inside move and win. I think that at this point right here, Ojulari could make it easily an outside fake, come in, counter. He doesn't really see that yet in his pass rush, and I think he has a lot of room to grow there. Instead, he's going to get ridden out up here. Now we're going to talk about Azeez in the run game, which is where he struggles, and I'm just going to play this play through and you're going to see what I'm talking about. That is what you don't want on the edge. That's what you're not going to see with Kwity Paye, as I just illustrated. This is just getting torqued out of his gap. I don't like his footwork. I don't like this crossover step is not good. And that's what is going to get him in trouble there, but also just his size. Look at how much bigger Leatherwood is than him, and that's just getting torqued out of the gap, and that's being a liability in the run game. You're going to see it here. When I talked about Kwity Paye, I talked about Kwity Paye getting dent and shutting down the edge. That's what Kwity Paye does. Ojulari here on the edge does not do that. He is getting extended down the field, ridden, and that's just making the edge longer, and that's giving the running back a lot more opportunities to make a vertical cut up the field. And that's what you don't want to see. As opposed to Kwity Paye, who on this block would be getting dent vertically and shutting it down, Ojulari is getting ridden horizontally, and it's giving the running back abilities to make cuts. This is the last play I'm going to show. This is just an example of Ojulari being too small, not understanding really what's happening. You know, pull Ojulari, you're going to see him over here, gets depleted. So, you know, Azeez Ojulari, he is a pass rush specialist. That's what he's bringing to the table. He's going to be a guy that's going to make a lot of plays on third down, but he's not a three-down guy yet, and I think that he has a lot of room to develop in the run game in terms of size, in terms of strength, before he's that guy. But he does fit well into the Giants' scheme as an outside linebacker. He's a little more scheme versatile than Paye, and the Giants have a history of Georgia guys. They took Lorenzo Carter, who plays the same position as Ojulari a few years back, just took Andrew Thomas. They have a connection there. They like Georgia guys. They're comfortable with Kirby Smart and that staff down there. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ojulari is a guy that is making his way up their boards for his pass rushing ability. The last prospect I'm going to be breaking down is Jaelan Phillips, a 6'5.5" 260-pound defensive end from the University of Miami. Phillips has an interesting career arc. He was the #1 recruit in the country coming out of the class of 2017 out of high school. Committed to UCLA and really struggled with injuries there, had 3 diagnosed concussions in 2018, was forced to medically retire by the doctors at UCLA, and then transferred to the University of Miami and got cleared by the doctors there and had a very strong senior season, 8 sacks, 14.5 TFLs. Strengths when you're talking about Phillips' physical profile, you can see the guy is a beast, 4.57 in the 40, extremely strong and powerful. pass rush repertoire. He has an array of moves that he uses. He uses a hezi to go inside, fake around the corner. He goes inside spins, outside spins, uses power, uses the stab chop that Ojulari likes. Scheme versatility as well. He can stand up on the outside with his athleticism, put his hand in the dirt as well. He can play a 3-tech, a 4-eye inside, rush on guards, and take care of them with his strength and power as well as his change of direction ability. Weaknesses is the injury history I was talking about. It's going to scare a lot of teams off. 3 concussions in 1 year there. Was forced to retire. Definitely a red flag. He's undisciplined against the run. There's a lot of times where it looks like he's just freelancing against the run, and it worked and he made plays sometimes, but there were other games where Miami really got gashed because of it. And he needs to develop some counters. I'm nitpicking a little bit, but he gets a little bit high when he makes inside moves sometimes. Needs to get his pad down. Needs to work on selling his outside rush to counter inside.
So this first play with Jaelan Phillips is really going to exemplify who he is as a pass rusher. He's an ultra athletic, quick, strong, and intelligent rusher who knows how to create movement from the tackles to counter movement, as I was alluding to earlier. So watch this sack from Phillips. He's going to go with an inside hezi to a cross chop and completely dust this tackle. And this is the type of stuff I'm talking about with Phillips that makes him the best true pass rusher in this class, in my opinion. This fake inside is creating movement by the tackle. It's what I was talking about earlier. You see how when he goes inside with that hezi, the tackle freezes his foot and resets it. You see how watch the tackle's inside foot right here. The tackle's inside foot freezes and resets off that fake. He knows at this point that the tackle is going to be leaning because he stopped his feed. All he has to do is get this outside arm off of him, and he's going to have a clear bend to the sack. And this is what I'm talking about with Phillips, that you don't see with Kwity Paye. You don't even see with Azeez Ojulari. You don't see these types of fakes and that type of movement in the pass rush of these other guys. This inside hezi to create the movement of the tackle, to take advantage and bend and get the sack. You're not seeing that from other guys. And it really exemplifies how much further developed Phillips is and how much more athletic ability he has to pull these kinds of moves off at a greater size. So you're going to see a similar thing here. He's going to fake inside, bend the edge, and what I love from this pass rush is this reach with this outside arm, because Phillips has this inside arm captured. He knows he's battling. He didn't get the clean win that he got on the last pass rush. He's still in combat trying to get around the edge, and this reach with the outside arm allows him to bring his momentum and slingshot around the edge. And that's taught by every pass rush coach would teach you that, to reach and to bring your momentum around the edge in the pass rush in order to bend the corner. And I really love this rep by Phillips, and this shows, like I'm saying, the development, the level that he's at in terms of being a pure pass rusher. I love this next play for a number of reasons. The first being that it shows that Jaelan Phillips can win in a number of ways. He doesn't just have that hezi to the outside. He knows how to win in other ways. He goes here with the stab cross chop that Ojulari loves so much. He's using the stab similar to Ojulari, not to go to power, but to get the tackle to shoot his hand so he can go to the cross chop and beat the outside. That's just another tool in the toolbox of Jaelan Phillips, showing that he can win in a number of ways, which is really exciting. So he's going to go to that move and win. And the next thing I want you to watch is the bend to chase down Trevor Lawrence here. How little movement, how little wasted movement he has, and how quickly he can bend that edge to get to Lawrence. That's fantastic bend. At his size and the speed to chase him down, I mean, that's really special. When you look at the ability to bend naturally there and not have any wasted movement and chase him down for a tackle and a fumble. This is a really special rep, and it really shows continuously what I'm going to keep harping on with Phillips is his advanced pass rush repertoire and ability to win in a number of ways. Similar thing here. This play is illustrating the bend again. He's going to be in some combat, and watch him reduce this shoulder and reduce his surface area. This tackle's trying to block him, and he can feel it on his back shoulder, and he knows that if he reduces his shoulder and reduces to bend the edge, that the tackle's not going to have a shot. And that's great athleticism, that's great coordination, and that's great understanding of what's happening. And then, once again, he just shows a great motor to chase down the quarterback. He's going to rush here as a 3 technique on the guard here, and this play is just showing his scheme versatility that I talked about earlier and his ability to use his quickness and size to beat these guards. They don't really have a chance. Look at that move. That is just an outstanding move by Jaelan Phillips there. He's going to recognize a quick overset by this tackle because he's worried about Phillips' speed and strength. He's going to plant off this outside foot, and watch how much ground he covers quickly to be able to beat this guard. And this guy doesn't have a shot. And these are the things that Phillips is going to be able to do in the pros. You're going to be able to move him all around the line of scrimmage, have him rush on the guards and centers, have him rush on the ends. And it really brings a whole new element to a pass rush with the Giants pass rush that already has some guys like that in Leonard Williams. This could just create some matchup nightmares for offensive lines. This play is just exemplifying a little bit of a weakness. I'm nitpicking a little bit, but Phillips gets a little bit high on his inside moves sometimes. I think that he could better sell the outside rush on some of these to counter inside, and he's just a little high. Look at how high his hat is. Your hat always wants to be below offensive tackles' hats. His hat's way above. He gets a little bit high and lazy in some of these inside moves. I think the Miami D-line's running a game here, so it's not a true inside move, but you just like to see him keep his pads down. But again, I'm nitpicking a little bit. Now talking about Jaelan Phillips in the run game, Phillips is very undisciplined on film in some of these games. This play is a great example of that. He's going to get a veer release from this offensive tackle. Like I talked about earlier with Kwity Paye. What do you want to do when you get a veer release is you want to squeeze. You want to squeeze. They're just running counter here, and you can play this in a number of ways. You're either going to spill and try to pick off pullers, or you're going to box. It depends on whichever kind of scheme you're playing in as a D-line. But no coach will teach you to do this and run up the field and create a massive vertical gap. This just shows that Phillips on this play, his eyes are looking straight in the backfield. He doesn't have eyes on this tackle to recognize a veer release and see pullers. His eyes are on the backfield. He's running up the field, creating a huge vertical gap, and they're going to get gashed as a result. Now, North Carolina is going to come back on the very next play. This is the very next play of the series. They saw Phillips come up the field and do this, so they say, hey, we're going to come back and we're going to run the exact same play again, and that's what they do. Veer release from the tackle, and what worries me is Phillips does the exact same thing and comes up the field and creates this vertical gap. And what this is telling me about Phillips is, number one, he's not disciplined and he's not coached up in terms of what he's doing on this counter play. And the next thing that scares me is he just came up the field, got kicked out, and they got gashed. And now he's going to come back and do the same exact thing, which shows me that he's not really learning on the field in these run game reps about what's happening to him. He needs to understand that he just got kicked out. He just got the same movement. That should recollect in his head, and he should know to squeeze, and I don't know how they're playing this at Miami, but make the play to reduce the area. But this is just creating a vertical gap, and there's no way that you're ever going to be successful as a D-line doing that. So that's a little worrisome there from Phillips. This is just another rep of Phillips being somewhat undisciplined. He's playing on the edge on the backside here. He's going to get to somewhat head up. You always want to keep this outside arm free when you're a contained player, or a force player as you call it in the run game. Phillips is going to get the outside arm capture. Then he's going to peek inside, which you never want to do, and he's going to give up the edge. So these are just plays that illustrates that Phillips has a little bit of work to do in the run game in terms of being disciplined, understanding what's going on, and not costing your defensive line in terms of gap integrity. So I'd like to see him get a little bit better there. But Phillips can do some really good things in the run game. You're going to see he's going to play here what we would call at Lehigh a lag technique. He's going to play vertical through the tackle on the reach block, when inside, get a great vertical puncture and make a huge TFL. And there's a lot of plays on tape with Phillips doing this same thing. He has great size and strength, obviously, great athleticism to be able to use these tackles as momentum against them and make plays in the backfield. Similar thing here. He's playing it. He's going to lag into this B gap, get the tackle off with good hands, get off, make the TFL. Another great play. This last play is just a short stick from Jaelan Phillips. So what a short stick means is he's lined up as a 5-tech here and the outside on the C gap. You have the C gap, the B gap, and the A gap. He's going to short stick, which is a 1-gap reduction into the B gap. So he's going to do that, and watch this movement. This tackle has no shot. I'm going to play it in real time so you guys can see the speed of Jaelan Phillips and the athleticism here as compared to this tackle. That's very quick. And then he gets down the line of scrimmage, makes a big hit on the running back for the TFL. This type of athleticism and this type of quickness at his size is going to allow him to do a number of things in the run game that can give tackles fits like on this play. Last play I'm going to be talking about here. This play is just an example of the type of athletic freak that Jaelan Phillips is. 4th and 2 in this Duke game here. Duke's going to try to get a little tricky and run a reverse. And watch Phillips at this point when he recognizes that it's a reverse and he recognizes the pitch to this wide receiver. Watch the closing speed when he plants his foot in the ground here. That is just pure athletic ability. I mean, there's nothing else you can say about it. It's good recognition and it's good understanding of what's happening, but the burst and the athletic ability to close the space that fast, that's really what this play is showing. So Jaelan Phillips, obviously just an athletic freak. So when you talk about Jaelan Phillips, it's all the things I said earlier. The injury scares... So when you talk about Jaelan Phillips, it's all the things I said earlier. The injuries are going to scare some teams off, but if you look past that, if you can look past that, he has, bar none, the highest ceiling of any edge rusher in this class. 6'5.5", 260, 4'5", 740. At that size and that IQ in the pass rush and dexterity with his array of moves to be able to win gives him a higher ceiling than any of the other pass rushers. When you're talking about the run defense, yes, he's undisciplined, but all of that can be coached up and taught at the NFL level. You know, that stuff is stuff that, with his athletic profile, his size, the IQ that he does display as a pass rusher, if you drill that into him and you get him a little more disciplined in the run game and playing how you want to play your scheme, I don't think it should be as big of a problem. So that's Jaelan Phillips, edge rusher, University of Miami. The New York Giants have a clear hole at edge rusher. The 2021 draft offers an opportunity to introduce a high-end prospect to the position group for the first time in a decade. Each of the top 3 players in this year's class bring a skill set that would be of value to the Giants. Kwity Paye's run defense will make an already stout defensive line a nightmare against the run. Azeez Ojulari's pass rushing ability will bring a versatile third down threat who's already comfortable in a stand-up role. And Jaelan Phillips brings a scheme-versatile player with blue-chip ability if you can look past the injury history. The biggest roadblock to this addition will be the Giants' draft position at 11th overall, not matching up with the value of prospects available on the edge. Gettleman would likely have to find a partner to trade back, something he has yet to do in his career if he wants to take an edge. Personally, I think you target the player with the highest ceiling, and that's undoubtedly Jaelan Phillips in this group. The injuries are of concern, but he showed the ability to stay healthy while playing a physical brand of football last season. I don't think the Giants can go wrong with Paye or Ojulari either. It will all ultimately come down to what defensive coordinator Patrick Graham is looking to add to his scheme next season. The New York Giants can go a number of directions in this year's draft, but they have a clear hole on the edge that's become more glaring in recent years. That simple fact, coupled with reported interest in this year's edge class, makes it completely plausible that the Giants could be targeting an edge prospect in this year's class. There's no telling which prospect the Giants may have locked their eyes on, but it is apparent that each of these players brings a defining skill to a defense that could change the unit's outlook for years to come.